Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the weekly highlight series on the From Cameras to Couches podcast. I am, as usual, your host, Zach Davis.
And I'm Emmy Davis.
And we are here to talk about a longtime favorite of ours in pretty much every form that it is available. We're going to be talking about Mel Brooks's production, The Producers, today.
The
Producers.
The Bro-ducers.
They are bros and they are seducing, I guess.
No.
Well, this is, technically, as far as I know, the 2005 version of The Producers is the only time that Matthew Broderick gets laid in all of film history. So, congratulations to him.
You're jumping so hard. We're
yeah,
talking about The Producers.
We're talking about The Producers. Mel Brooks' movie, The Producers. Okay, so we're going to do this a little bit untraditionally because there are technically three ways that we can talk about this project. There's an original version of the film from 1968, massive hit, won best original screenplay.
And there was a nomination for Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah, for Gene Wilder, which is awesome.
It was like one of his early performances. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
No,
I'm
it's okay.
excited.
He actually, I was reading this earlier that he
got so nervous that what's his name? Whoever plays
Zero.
Yes, kissed him.
Yeah, there was that, and he was also, when he was reading the script for this, when they were doing like a table read or he was auditioning for it or something, he had to leave early because he had to go cash a $55 unemployment check because he was so down bad at the time.
Oh
so
my
he needed this role
gosh.
desperately, and boy, oh boy, he is just one of the funniest people to ever walk the earth. But yeah, we're going to talk about the 1968 film. We're going to talk a little bit about the Broadway version, which there was a 2001 adaptation of this to Broadway, and the 2005 film that came out after the adaptation of Broadway and made it a musical comedy. There's a couple of reasons that I wanted to talk about it this way. Number one is because I like the musical comedy way more than most people do. It's a soft spot for me. It was one of those movies that I had access to way earlier than I should have.
Free with Voodoo.
Yeah, I watched this movie for the first time at like 13, and nobody knew that I had it, and I was so thrilled by it because I didn't know that like musicals could be raunchy, and
it's not even like terribly like inappropriate.
No, it's not by no stretch. It's a graphic, but it's got a lot of allure and
yes, for sure,
innuendo.
Beautiful girls wearing nothing but pearls.
Yeah. We'll talk about this by doing the synopsis of the 1968 movie. Then I have another segment on what changed from the movie to the Broadway play / adaptation of the movie. And then we'll just do kind of our usual thing based around that. So we're just going to talk about the story as a whole. It doesn't change very much between the
general
movie.
story is pretty similar,
it's
but
pretty
there's
much
like a few characters that get shifted.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have a conversation towards the end of this about bloat and the wrong things to do when adapting a Broadway musical into a movie, which I think the 2005 version of this makes several of those mistakes, but I also hold it very near and dear to me. So let's just break into it. For starters, let's talk about the cast. Zero Mostel / Nathan Lane as Max Bialystock. This is the 1968 version and the 2005 version, respectively. Gene Wilder and Matthew Broderick as Leopold Bloom. Christopher Hewitt / Gary Breach as Roger Debris. Leah Meredith and Uma Thurman as Ula. Kenneth Mars and Will Ferrell as Franz Liebkind. We'll get more into the casting of the 2005 version of this later, but I definitely have some gripes with the cast as a whole. But
there's some very
poor choices.
Miscasts. Yeah.
Okay, let's just break into the synopsis. So, in 1959, we meet Max Bialystock, a sleazy scumbag producer of Broadway musicals who sleeps with older women in their golden years to secure funds for his plays.
He just seduces these old women, and it's
off
great.
to a rip-roarious start.
And they're just obsessed with him.
Yeah, he has like different names for him that are all a combination of like
it's like hold me, touch me,
love me, kiss me. Like it's so great, and he has and
that's how they appear in the credits.
Yeah, they're all listed by those names, and he has like a whole wardrobe full of portraits of them that he pulls out whenever any particular one is there. It's ridiculous. Anyway, he is lamenting the loss of his time as the king of Broadway when he meets this accountant who comes in to do his taxes. His name's Leopold Bloom. Very nervously played perfectly by both Matthew Broderick and Gene Wilder. Mm-hmm. He also harbors a secret desire to become a producer, which he exposes to Max. While completing some accounting work, Leo notices a loophole that he can make more money with a flop than they can with a hit. And the way they do this is by raising a bunch of money for a play, putting on a cheap play that is guaranteed to fail, and escaping with the rest of the money. So, Max convinces him to join him in the scheme, and they become a pair of producers. So, they spend the rest of their evening, week, whatever the time frame is, but they're looking for the worst play ever written. And they're going through all of these different options and having a terrible time trying to find any of the actual solutions when they finally come across one entitled Springtime for Hitler, a gay romp with Ava and Adolf at Berchtesgaden. This is
just ridiculous.
This is a pivotal moment in like my youth of like, whoa.
Well, there's a moment I have to break into the scene the tiniest bit because in both versions they do it the exact same way, and they're reading over like all these different scripts. God. And there's one where they're like, this guy wakes up in his bed
and turned into a giant cockroach.
Only to discover he's been turned into a giant cockroach. No, it's too good. And it's actually a Kafka reference, which is just really funny.
Yeah, I love the one that Matthew Broderick is reading in the Gene Wilder does like the back end of the joke, but he's reading one where he's like, and I was looking through the glass stain on the front door or something like that, and then he's like, oh, I've read this one, it's the stained glass. It's just so great.
And then they break into Springtime for Hitler, a gay romp with Ava and Adolf at Berchtesgaden, and it's just
so they find this and they're immediately like,
gold.
This is our golden ticket.
This is the worst play we could possibly find.
This is the most offensive thing that we could possibly find.
Because it's also 1959.
Yeah, the war hasn't been over for 20 years. People are still hot off the presses with everything going on in the world. And they're about to move into Vietnam. Surprise, everybody. Anyway, they immediately contact the author of this play, whose name's Franz Liebkind. He requires them to take an oath of honor to Hitler.
The Siegfried Oath?
Because he believes this play is going to clear Hitler's name in America. They take the Siegfried Oath and acquire the rights to produce this play. In a flip-flop series of events between the 2005 and the original version of this movie, Max then sleeps with every old lady that he can find in town in order to secure funding for the play. He goes around and
there's a lot of little old ladies out there.
Yeah, he just what a dog. It's so ridiculous. The musical number for this is absolutely hysterical. And
I every time I see the musical number in the 2005 version, I wonder like at what points they're switching out dancers in old lady makeup and actual old ladies, because sometimes I'll be like, gosh, they just look like those are actually old ladies, and then they'll be dancing. I'm like, nah, that high kick was not that 80-year-old woman.
She's swinging on her walker. That's not happening.
But they do really switch them out fairly well. I mean, I feel like you don't really get any glimpses of the young dancers' faces.
It's extremely well cut. I think that's one of the better numbers in the movie.
I completely agree.
So anyway, they next go to the house of Roger Debris, one of the most cursed directors in town, who is also a very flamboyant transvestite gay man, and absolutely loves the idea of Springtime for Hitler. He's like, I'm obsessed with this. We have all of these plans for how we're going to do it. In the original, the Max goes and visits the old ladies first, and then goes and visits Roger with Leo. In the 2005 version, it's reversed. They go and see Roger first, and then Max starts securing the funding. But anyway, they secure Roger Debris, and they're like, okay, we're gonna work on our next task, which is getting an actor.
At this point, they have the worst play, they have the worst director, and they have funding.
Yeah, and now they have to find their perfect Hitler. So. We'll just talk about the original version and just keep going because I keep falling off track with the 2005 version. But they start having auditions for Hitler. It's absolute chaos. There are so many people. There are like actual German soldiers there that are auditioning. It's just pure madness. But they after a long day of attempting to cast somebody and they just can't find the perfect person, this guy comes in. His name is Lorenzo Saint-Dubois. His initials are LSD, and that's pretty much every bit about his stereotype that you need to know. He He is a hippy dippy dude.
Hey,
Frequently
man.
doing like blues songs. It's an absolute hit with them. They're like, that's our Hitler. That's our guy. So Lorenzo is cast as Hitler, and we fast forward to the opening night of the play. On the opening night of the play, they open. Max and Leo are like in the back of the audience, and they're like, we need to leave before they kill us. So they go across the street, and they're starting to watch people walk out at the beginning of the play because there's a huge opening number that has so much like Nazi iconography.
Just massively offensive.
It's perfect. So many people are like, this is disgusting. We're out of here. And then LSD comes out. And the way that he acts as Hitler convinces people that this is a satire. And they all stay. And they all think it's the best play that they've ever seen. So, in the meantime, Max and Leo are across the street celebrating the fact that their play is flopping. And then intermission starts. And everybody comes over to the bar that they're at to have a drink. And they're talking about how it'll run for the next 10 years. And it's one of the funniest things they've seen in their lives and all that stuff. And they have like a horrified moment of, oh shit, it all went wrong. And it did, and it does. And so in the original version, Franz comes after them and tries to murder them. I guess this happens in the 2005 version too, but basically they convince Franz to redirect his anger towards the actors. And he does so, and they're like, all right, well, let's just blow up the theater, and the show will never run again. So they go to the theater with dynamite. Of course, it goes wrong. They're all caught in the blast, and they all get sent before a judge. And he's like, all right, destruction of property, fraud, all this kind of stuff. You guys are going away for a very long time. And Bloom stands up, and he's like, oh, well, I'm really glad Max is the first person that's ever seen me as a human with potential, and yada, yada, yada. They get sent to jail. They go to jail, and they start a production with the prisoners of a musical called Prisoners of Love. They continue to oversell their play and end up with about 26,000% worth of their play sold. And that's the end of the movie, the original version anyway. So, yeah, this is an unapologetically, like, offensive and obvious movie if you choose to take it that way, but it is a very, very excellent satire of just social satire. And I've got so many quotes from Mel Brooks about how he conceived the idea behind this and stuff, but it's so much fun. Yeah, I have always loved this story.
Quality movie. It's so fun, and like, I mean, I hadn't seen the 68 version until this year, but like growing up, or not growing up, but you know, having seen the 2005 version for 10 years now, I just, like, it never fails to make me smile and, like, to make me laugh, even though I know exactly what the bits are. And then, like, there's just... It
is genuinely a comfort movie for me.
It's so funny and so fun and just good
It's just a great time.
Good movie. A super kind of, like, not accessible musical, but...
Not at all.
But, like...
If you like Mel Brooks, you will like this musical, but it's a very... very on the nose and very tough to digest.
But I feel like
thing,
you could show this to somebody that doesn't necessarily like musicals, and they would like it.
Definitely, this would be the musical that would get the boys into musicals because it's just so edge of your seat and edgy and funny. And also, like, the perception of comedy is such an interesting thing because I was reading a lot of articles earlier just about Mel Brooks in general and how some people are talking about how they showed Blazing Saddles to their son or something like that, and they're like, oh, well, he's laughing at all the wrong parts of Blazing Saddles. Like, he's laughing at it because of the edginess of the racism that's in it, not that it's making fun of racists. And it's so interesting to see how everything has changed and shifted in society since, you know, the 2005 version. This play would not run on Broadway today. There's absolutely no chance.
Gosh, never.
Anyway, let's talk about some changes between the two, between the 1968 and the Broadway version and the movie version, and what we love about it things and some criticism. I've kind of dumped them all into the same pile here. Obviously, the musical numbers are something that I love in this movie. There are a couple that are pretty grating, but the ones that are great are fantastic. I really love most of these.
What's your favorite song well, I know what your favorite song from the producers technically is, but what's your favorite song from the 2005 movie?
The first three are so like rent-free in my brain. It's opening night. Mm-hmm. We Can Do It, I Want to Be a Producer, which are 3 just like bangers back to back. There is a pretty big gap between Opening Night and We Can Do It, which I deeply take fault with, because there's a song that goes in between those two in the Broadway play called The King of Broadway that Max performs in front of the theater after his show.
Funny boy.
Yeah, this is one of the changes, but the original version starts with Max in his office sleeping with a little old lady. The Broadway / movie version of it starts at the opening night of one of Max Bialystok's plays, which is called Funny Boy, which is a musical adaptation of Hamlet, which is just awesome. And Roger Debris and I can't remember the character's name. I never can. Carmen Gia.
Yeah.
Do like an awesome rendition of it at the midpoint in the movie where they're like mimicking one of the numbers from the play, even though it wasn't fully written. It's like, to be or not to be mean a lot to me.
And like their little snappies.
Showstopper.
Once we get to favorite scenes, I'm going to talk about that scene for a minute, because everything about it is so quotable.
Yeah,
I eat it up. I love it.
Let's blast through the changes, and
we
then
don't even have to blast through it. But yeah. I just had to.
I love.
I'm gonna hold space
love
for
Roger
that
Debris
scene.
and Carmen Gia so much in this movie. They are so funny and a little meanly stereotypical, yes, but God, are they funny?
Oh my gosh. Anyways,
okay, the original starts off with Max sleeping with one of his backers in his office. The musical actually begins with opening night, Funny Boy, yada yada yada. In the stage version, it begins with opening night, moves into the King of Broadway. I think that they cut this song from the movie because Max uses the F word at one point in this song. It's the only F-bomb he drops in the entire course of the play. But I think they cut it out for that reason. Anyway, Ula is a character in the original version, and she's the receptionist for Max and Leo. She comes in, she's just like the Swedish gal that can not speak English at all.
Eye candy.
Yeah, she's just a face. She's a sex icon. In the play version, they expanded on Ula's character, and in the movie, she is played by Uma Thurman. And this is a horrendous choice of casting. Uma Thurman's musical numbers in here are the worst parts of the movie by a long shot.
Remember when Ula danced?
Yeah,
Ula dance again.
It is pretty agonizing to sit through, to be completely honest. Like it brings the movie from 60 miles an hour to 0 miles an hour.
And you also are experiencing the sexism that's left over from the 1960s, and you're just like,
pretty rough. Like, these jokes by 2005 were on the edge, and like you can get away with that stuff a lot easier in the 60s.
Some of them are funny, but like there are some of them that are just like,
are you kidding me?
Literally, her entire purpose in this movie is
there's like
just being beautiful and like
bits,
just being a sex icon.
Bits like in the middle of I Want to Be a Producer, where there's like a number where a bunch of girls come out, and there's like an ugly girl in the chorus line, and he like goes down the chorus line, and he's like, "Oh, sleep with you, but not you," and stuff like that. It's like, come on, like, why are we here?
Just poor taste.
Yeah, just. You don't have to dab on him.
No. Anyways,
I'm gonna. Should I cut that comment out? Should I cut the dab on him comment? I'm leaving it.
In that same vein, anyways, Ula is overly sexualized in the original, and even more so in this one.
Even worse in this one.
They literally give her a song
really
that's about. She has this line in one of her songs, and she says something about violinists love to play an E string, but audiences really love a G string.
This is a year after she did Kill Bill.
Like, Thurman, what are you doing?
Oh, it's a rough role.
Oh my gosh.
We may have a position for you. As a matter of fact, we may have several positions.
Yeah, like literally just every line about her is sexualization, and like the first you meet the character when Max yells out the window at her, and he's like, "If you got it, flaunt it," and that's
which
what her
is just
song
a throwaway line from the original, but it turns into like her musical number in this one,
and
because
it's
she
just about her sexualizing herself.
Yeah,
anyways,
it's wild.
That's my Ula rant.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Okay, another one. In the modern version, Franz Liebkind, the author of Springtime for Hitler, is originally cast as Hitler. LSD's character is completely removed from the modern version of it, and probably due to like I don't know, the irrelevance of hippie stereotype by like the 2000s. I don't know. But
I also think that, I mean, okay, they cast Will Ferrell as Franz. Like,
Yeah.
it makes sense that they would want to give him this spotlight, kind of.
Yeah, but the play comes out before that, so I'm just...
yeah, I hadn't even thought about that.
I don't remember who plays him on Broadway. But it's just... It's a weird diversion that they made. I think probably in better taste than LSD's character is. I think LSD is absolutely like one of the funniest characters in the original movie, but
we also
I think
get
that the progression of it
Roger Debris coming out singing his
High on Myself, which
his
is
number, and he just
like one of my most
flamboyance.
rewatched moments of my life.
So when he comes out on stage, like people are leaving the theater and they are getting mad, and then he
we didn't note this, by the way, but Will Ferrell's character, Franz Liebkind, is originally cast as Hitler, and then he breaks his leg, and then Roger Debris gets cast as Hitler.
Yes. So, people are leaving the theater, and then Roger comes out as Hitler, and he's like, got this serious, like, stance, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And, like, people are turning around to kind of look, and then he, like...
He goes in, like, this total, like Grecian urn pose.
Like, puts his hip out, like, just so sassy, so fantastic, and just starts singing the most ridiculous number. I'm the greatest dictator in the land.
It's the moment that turns everybody in the audience around. They're like, oh, this is supposed to be funny. And boy, oh boy, is it.
It's so funny.
I love the whole Springtime for Hitler sequence in the 2005 version so much more than the original.
Who is it that sings Springtime for Hitler in the 2005 version?
I don't know. The blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy that is, like, agonizingly German.
With the bluest context.
Yeah, he's great.
Keep talking while I look it up.
Okay, yeah. So Debris' big moment with High on Myself is absolutely wonderful. The core cast of the Broadway films all reprise their roles, except for Franz, who was replaced by Will Ferrell, with extremely varying levels of success, I will admit. Some very odd slapsticky comedy stuck in the middle of
John Barrowman, that's who it is.
Oh, well,
I wanted to say
sense.
James Marsden, but I knew that was wrong.
That's actually a great call.
Similar faces.
Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane are both in the original Broadway production. Gary Beach as Debris is a part of the original production. Roger Bart as Carmen Gia is in the original production as well. I also just want to note that Gene Wilder is like the best part of the original movie. He is so unbelievably good in that role. And so much of Broderick's performance is copycat of what Gene is doing, but Broderick also does it in a very unique way. And I think that the chemistry that him and Lane have because of the Broadway production that they'd done before they did the movie is like very big testament to how exactly they deliver these jokes. And I think it works really, really well. Okay, let's move on to favorite scenes and the soundtrack.
Okay. All right.
I love The King of Broadway. It's not in either of the films, but it's in the Broadway play. It's fantastic.
You can find it on YouTube.
It's the second song in the movie. They got rid of the second song. Or the second song in the play, not in the movie.
At least it wasn't like second act.
Yeah.
Pivotal song, something like that.
Yeah.
So.
They got rid of For Good in Wicked.
For real, like.
The movie's name For Good. You know the number's gonna be.
King of Broadway is great, and it should be more widely
consumed.
Yeah, widely consumed.
I used to be king.
The scene where we meet Leo is just one of the funniest things in both movies. One of the most quoted things between Yumi and Rachel, and it's just this little anxious guy, and he's got his like comfort blanket, this teeny
he's got his little blue handkerchief-sized blanket,
like that has been worn down from his years of rubbing it from anxiety, and he's just like, my blue blanket, and at some point he gets like hysterical as he says.
It's such a good Broderick, like, oh my god, he's so funny in this.
He's like, I'm hysterical, and then
I'm hysterical.
No, Max throws a glass of water at him, and he's like, I'm hysterical, and I'm wet, and then he slaps him, and he's like, I'm in pain.
I'm hysterical, and I'm in pain. Yeah,
and I'm still hysterical. I can't. You're gonna jump on me, which this is one of my...
jump on me, like Nero jumped on Pompeia.
Like Nero jumped on Pompeia. Ooh, Pompeia! I love that change. When I saw the scene from the 60s version for the first time, I lost my mind over that little bit. That just the small jump, or the small change from just, you're going to jump on me,
and adding me like a bug, and then he's like Nero jumped on Pompeia. He was unfaithful to her, and he squashed her like a bug.
Like, that is just so funny to just throw in there. Like, what?
Who? Pompeia!
And, like, he's trying to explain the story as this man is
and the scream that he makes when Max's character is standing over Leo, like straddling him as he's laying on the ground, and he's like, "I'm not gonna jump on you," while jumping up and down, and the scream that both Broderick and Wilder do here are in their own rights just beautiful, just art pieces. Wilder's expression is like, ah! Oh my god, it's so good. Yeah, the first three numbers I've already mentioned. Springtime for Hitler, I think is one of the funniest scenes in movie history, and it more from the 67 version and how revolutionary it was then than the 2005 version, but the 2005 version is quite exceptional as well, especially because it has High on Myself in the middle of it.
Yes, but I think the vocals in the Springtime for Hitler in the modern version are much better, but also it's a musical,
bigger production. I mean, like I said, Gene Wilder was cashing an unemployment check for $55 before they made the original. Along Came the Alley, we talked about that number, but that's when he's saucing up all the old ladies,
and they're all dancing.
Those aging nymphomaniacs.
I love when he comes out of the closet in the red suit. Like, he changes from his normal outfit to like his like seduction suit, and he like, I'm that devil.
Oh, it's so good.
So good. I can't talk about how much I love this movie enough.
Okay. Keep It Gay. Let's talk about Keep It Gay real quick.
Okay, just the entirety of the scene at Roger's house, they come in the door and you meet.
It opens on.
He was drunk.
Carmen Gia picking up the phone, because he's essentially like Roger's assistant, and picks up the phone, and he's like, Roger Dupree's house on a sunny Tuesday in whatever. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking to? And his expression like totally changes, and he goes, "Listen, you old drunk. He was hot. He was drunk. You got lucky. Don't ever call here again." And hangs up the phone. And then does like a leap towards the door, but pulls his back on the way, so he like comes down. He's holding his back.
But you forgot Roger, like from upstairs, goes, "Who was it?" He goes,
"Wrong number."
Wrong number.
Oh my god, it is genuinely magical.
Carmen Diaz's character is one of my just favorite.
Painfully stereotypical, and if you can't get past that, I understand. But my god, it is like the funniest version of it ever.
So good.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about Keep It Gay and just that number, because it is basically about how Roger is going to make Springtime for Hitler into this big flamboyant production, and
he has like this line where he talks about like perfect. He's like, "I see a line of girls, I see a line of beautiful girls," and then he's like, "Just as stormtroopers, each one a gem," and like
leather boots and whips on their hips. Oh my god, it's so good.
Also, okay, we have to talk more about before Keep It Gay starts playing. Roger comes down and he is in this gown, like this full-on ball gown, because he's
Leo
going
doesn't know that he's a cross-dresser, so Max is like surprising him with the fact that this guy is just all in.
And he says, and he's going to this event tonight, and there's an award.
The choreographer's ball.
Yes, and there's an award for the best costume. He goes, "I'm supposed to be dressed as the Grand Duchess Anastasia, but I think I look more like the Chrysler Building."
I look more like the Chrysler Building.
And he stops and poses and like puts his hands in front of, and his pose in that moment lives in my mind rent free, and has ever since I was 13 years old.
Oh my God.
I cannot.
Absolutely, like gut bustingly funny. I think it's so
scene,
sweet,
and formed a lot of my humor.
It definitely did,
in maybe not a good way. But
I cannot describe to you how much I love how much fun him and Carmen Gia are having in these roles, because they are taking it to the house. They are having so much fun in every line delivery. I love it.
And then there's the part midway through the song where they're introducing he's like my choreographer and my lighting director. Like, he's introducing all of his like assistants and what have you. And they're all flamboyant and incredibly gay in their own ways, and one of them comes down, and every time I see him,
keep it gay,
keep it gay. Every time this one comes down in this little purple like leotard kind of get up, first of all, he kind of looks like Bill Murray.
He kind of looks like Matt Stone from South Park. I was wondering if it was him for a long time.
That's so funny. He does. He does.
Which would absolutely make sense in the fact that
Matt Stone did
Bigger, Longer, Uncut came out like 2 years before the play started. And also, I just as a quick note, the play started airing on Broadway, I believe, in November of 2001. America really needed to laugh in New York at that time. Like, I can't believe that Broadway was still opening in November of 2001, to be honest. But that's kind of mind-boggling. And there's a really, really good amateur recorded version on a camcorder from 2001.
I mean, you can find a bootleg anywhere.
Yeah, but recording of Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick in the original casting of this play. It's awesome. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Anyways, no, sorry. This guy that looks like Bill Murray comes down in a purple leotard, and his bulge is like...
that is one of the more touchy ones for me. That's where I'm like, ooh, you're pushing it a little bit.
What did they stuff in his pants to make?
Oh, it is ridiculous. Triangulated.
And like, I swear it makes eye contact with Matthew Broderick at some point.
Yeah, the look that he shares with the bulge is perfect.
Like at some point they end up having like basically the cast of like the Village People come out in the YMCA music video. Like
fantastic.
This guy's dressed up as a Native American,
and a very friendly Cherokee Indian.
Yeah, like, they're all doing the conga together. It's just one of the most joyful, like funny sequences ever.
Just love this sequence every time it comes on. It never ceases to put a smile on my face. And like I said, if you cannot get past like the fact that you can perceive this as meanness, you're probably not going to like it. But I don't. I look at it objectively as like
this is one of those things.
It's a satire. Like it is
satire, and it's all in good fun.
It's a satire.
But I mean, you can't
I love it.
You can't go into a movie about men who put a play on about Hitler without having a good attitude. You know.
Yeah. It's really funny, like thinking about the fourth wall breaking version of this, where people are going to the theater in 1967 or 8 and seeing the original version of the movie and being like, I never, and walking out. and then the Springtime for Hitler sequence comes on and like the people are doing the exact same thing. I'll get more onto like Mel Brooks's conversation about how he conceived this in a little bit, but I also want to mention 2 more musical numbers. You Never Say Good Luck on Opening Night. Very brief number.
It's bad luck to say good luck on opening night.
Very, very short number. It's only like a minute and a half long. I think maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes long. But just a phenomenal exchange. I showed this song to Danny the other day, and he was just like, "Oh, that is so smart." And
Danny with the theater kid background.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, in 2001, it's probably a little late to be making this joke. Also, here's another joke I thought of on the way home. When in the beginning of Keep It Gay, when he says shows should be more pretty, shows should be more witty, shows should be more, what's the word? Gay. We just watched West Side Story last night. I didn't even think that was a reference to that until we watched that. Anyway, there's another like just kind of generalized Broadway reference by this number.
We're on a big musical kick in the Davis household, man.
We've been watching.
Bring it on.
I don't hate it.
Did Wicked start this?
No, it did not. I think. Let's see, what started it for me recently? I think Some Like a Hot probably took it. I think the producers has been the one that I was like, okay, I'm back. I'm really back for this.
But I mean, okay,
watching the Broadway version.
I'm just thinking timeline-wise. You watched Wicked, and then not shortly after, but a little while after, you watched Tick Tick Boom, and then you've been on a musical kick ever since.
I'd say a kick is. I think I've been like more on a comedy journey with Brooks, and
I guess that's true.
Like some
You've
of the
just
Jack
been really
Lemmon
into
movies.
you've been really into Brooks lately.
Yeah, because I've watched like The Apartment and Some Like It Hot and Mr. Roberts and
maybe I've just been on a musical kick.
And
I'm just trying to shove that on you.
No, the Tick Tick Boomness is running hot in this household, and I'm not the half of the Tick Tick Boomness going on.
We'll
be ships passing in the night on that one.
Chewy mama, I will be obsessing over it for a while, and I'm not going to be apologetic. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Make fun of the head. I love the choreography.
I want to make one note.
This is not a Tick Tick Boom highlight.
I want to make a note about a bad song at the end of the producers. I think Till Him is so stupid.
Till Him.
I think that whole point of
I wanted to talk about Max's number. And it's part of a number. It's been a while since I've seen the end of the 2005 producers, but I know that he does this number in the jail.
Betrayed.
And Betrayed. Thank you. And he goes through
and you stab me in the back.
1, 2, 3.
He goes through like all of the numbers.
Yes, which is just one of my favorite things when musicals pull all the motifs from different numbers, and they're like, "I'm gonna shove it into this one freaking song."
So awesome! It's like a 4.5 minute single song.
It's like a musical cannoli, and they just put all the filling in the cannoli. And
one thing I just noted in the movie is that this number does not look good at all. Like the way that they shoot it is so stupid.
But I always have loved the lyricism.
But the number is wonderful. Like it is a genuinely great piece of writing. Yeah, I had that one noted. Okay, let's move on to some favorite quotes, and I think this is my longest list of favorite quotes that I've ever had.
I think I've said a lot of mine. I love the whole phone call between her. Sorry,
he was drunk. He was hot. You got lucky.
Who is it? Wrong number. Again, every line in that scene is so quotable.
I think that everything that Debris and Carmen Gita say across the course of this movie is on this list.
I'm supposed to look like Grand Duchess Anastasia, but I think I look more like the Chrysler Building. That is said a lot in our house.
He's having a stroke. What?
Yes, that's one of. I have that one listed.
Really bad on that one. I don't care.
Also, just going back to the I'm hysterical, and I'm wet from both movies is so good.
Yeah, Matthew Broderick like twiddling his blanket behind his ears is so wonderful. There's a point when Carmagia and Roger are walking up to the premiere of the play, and Carmagia is walking around the corner, and Roger's like, "I'm so excited to start this," and Carmagia is like, "I know, I feel like I'm going into labor."
Just okay. I kind of want to move on from them because we could just go on about them all night. We have to talk about Franz a little bit because the scene, Will Ferrell's like shining scene when they do the Siegfried Oath.
Guten Tag Hauptklapp.
Yes. The Guten Tag Hauptklapp and the Siegfried Oath, which
another unfortunately stupid number, but I do like the scene.
He's trying to get them to say the oath so that they will be loyal to Hitler's name, and before he's like, the penalty is death, and Max goes, "Is that anything like death?
Is that anything like death?"
He goes, "Yes."
Another fantastic quote from that scene is when when Franz reveals that Adolf Hitler's middle name is Elizabeth because he's descended from a long line of English queens.
It is so good. And just the whole Siegfried Oath, they're taking
Adolf Elizabeth Hitler.
They're taking this obvious Nazi oath, and at some point they switch from like pointing their finger up to pointing their middle fingers up and never
flicking them up and down
like,
in
waving their finger
or in pace with them saying this oath. Oh my god, it's so funny. There's a quote at the end of that's actually a reference to a malfunction in the Broadway play.
Save that. That's my fun fact.
Okay.
Sorry, that's my favorite fun fact. I wanted to say that.
Okay. You're gonna jump on me like Nero jumped on Pompeia from the original. Fantastic. Let's assume for a moment that you're a dishonest man.
Damn it.
Assume away.
I was 3 seconds away from saying that. Again, from Franz. Hitler, there was a painter. He could paint an entire apartment in one afternoon.
Two coats.
I love that joke. Yeah,
he's
much.
yakking about Churchill. He's like, "That's because you were fed propaganda by the BBC."
I can't. I could just laugh about this movie forever. I really could.
Roger and Carmen Gia, when Franz is shooting up the place and they're looking for a place to hide, and Roger says, "Quick, darling, back in the closet."
Oh no!
Just pure meanness. When Carnegie is introducing them into Roger's room, and he's like, "Oh, Roger, we're not alone."
Ula, when she first introduces herself, she says like this long Swedish name, and they're like, what? I can't, hold on. I have to find out how that quote goes before I get into the second one. He says, what is your first name?
What's your first name?
She goes, oh, that was my first name. Would you like to hear my last name? He's like, I'm afraid we don't have the time.
We don't have the time.
Later on in the courtroom, she repeats the first name and then goes, Bloom. And they're like, you married him? And she says, he wouldn't do it until we got married. And it's so funny because it's Uma Thurman saying this about Matthew Broderick.
Oh my god. Like I said, the first time Matthew Broderick has ever been laid in the history of cinema.
It's so funny.
Go back to see below election. Yeah, oh my god. I can't get over like half. I have so many quotes on here.
Mr. Marks, you were right about one thing. You are a CPA, a certified public asshole.
Hooray! Clerks chime in from the background. Mrs. Bialystok and Bloom, I presume. Forgive the pun. Max turns to Leo and says, what pun? He says, shut up, he thinks he's witty.
Fat, I'm not that fat. Fat, fatty, fatso, you fat, fatty walrus. Give me the fat books.
Will the dancing Hitlers please wait in the wings? We are only seeing singing Hitlers right now.
Just,
You're an accountant. You're in a noble profession. The word count is part of your title.
Mr. Bialystok, I'm afraid you've mistaken me for someone with a spine. It's just so telling of his character.
This is only a line in the 68 version, but Franz walking up behind the stagehand and saying, and the guy saying, what can I do for you? And Franz says, you will please be unconscious, and knocks him on the head.
Yes. Oh my gosh, we could go back and forth on these quotes
like
forever.
I'm coming to the end of this, but I could quote this movie pretty much front to back. Okay, let's do some internet research.
Okay, can I say the one?
Go.
Okay, I got really, really excited when I found this earlier.
Great bit of trivia.
There is this part in the 2005 production where actor Guten Tag Hobklop and they're trying to leave after they've taken the Siegfried Oath, and Max tries to open the door, and it won't open. And he, like, starts panicking.
The stagehand had accidentally locked the door.
Wait. I'm talking about the movie,
in the movie.
In the movie, he's trying to pull it, and it, like, won't open. And he's like, oh my gosh, we're trapped. He's like, freaking out.
Got it.
And it was an inside joke because on stage production, I think it's when they were performing in London.
Yeah.
A stagehand had accidentally locked the door, so... Nathan Lane just started like improvising, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, we're stuck up here!" So
we're trapped like rats with this crazy Nazi.
And they loved it so much that they put it in the movie and paid a little homage to it, which is just a great fun.
Bit. I really love that.
I'm obsessed with that.
Let's see here. This is for the 1968 version. I have a couple of these labeled 68 and 2005.
We can go over the 68 first.
Mel Brooks cannot read music.
No, he cannot.
So when he was coming up with the ideas for the Shakespeare's Springtime for Hitler number and Prisoners of Love number, he had to hum it into a tape recorder and then have it transcribed by an expert who actually conducted the music, which is just creative process and real testament to capability. He
also kind of based this off of people he knew a little bit. Like, he knew these producers back in the day He
had, like, a collection of stories.
And he just compiled, like, a bunch of different people into these two crook producers. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
And I think that's super fun. And there was at some point, somebody said around him, well, you could make more money with a flop than with a hit if you were smart enough. And he was like,
he has that moment where
bingo!
The music starts playing, like Max sitting up on the couch.
Light bulb above the head.
Ding! Mel Brooks has said himself that one of his lifelong jobs is to make the world laugh at Adolf Hitler. And the very way that he found to do this was through this comedic script. The only real way I could get even with Hitler and company was to bring them down with laughter, is a quote directly from him.
He actually, when people...
Jewish man, by the way, if you're wondering.
Yeah, and when he got letters from what he said was pretty much every rabbi in New York, he wrote all of them letters back explaining why he did this. Not necessarily apologizing, but, like, standing his ground, which I kind of appreciate.
Yeah.
A lot.
It's such a fine line to toe, especially at the time where, like, satire was far from... like,
popular.
It wasn't popular, but it existed.
I mean, at this
And
point, The Great
for him-
Dictator had been made
Yeah, yeah.
a while
Like, there's
ago.
so many things, and he loves the idea of laughing at a dictator too. But there's a really good
He actually, one of the studios wanted to switch it from Hitler to Mussolini
Yeah,
and call it
that's
Springtime for
another good one.
Mussolini.
Hitler's just a little too much, I guess. But I mean, if you're gonna do it all the way. And this is a
And
this is
why
a
not?
testament
Like,
of that very statement.
Why not make fun of it? Like,
Yeah.
I love it.
It's wonderful. Here's a really good one. Roger Ebert, the like Siskel and Ebert, recounted how he was in an elevator with Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft, the star of The Graduate, or the leading actress in The Graduate, in New York City after the film premiered. A woman got on the elevator, recognized him, and said, "I have to tell you, Mr. Brooks, that your movie is completely vulgar." And Brooks told her, "Lady, it rose below vulgarity," which is just such a good line.
Wow.
And that is frequently the framework around how this film is referenced.
This movie won Best Original Screenplay above 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, which is just
And there was
wild.
another big movie that I can't remember, but
Yeah, I that's the one in contention for that year. And honestly, like, I love both of them. I personally love this one a little bit more, but that's just because there's a side of me that is more valuing being entertained than, I don't know. I don't have a poster of The Producers in my room. I do have a poster of 2001 in my room. 1968, the Gene Wilder thing about the $55. That's one of my favorites. But all right, moving on to 2025. 2005. In 2025 is when we're recording this podcast. Matthew Broderick wore an earplug in one ear when Nathan Lane yells at him. There's a sequence where Nathan Lane says, "There are two rules when working in Broadway. Number one, never put your own money in the show." And Matthew Broderick says, "What's the second one?" Put your own money in the show. And yeah, he wore an earplug for that because it was
because Nathan Lane is loud.
he's a loud dude.
Nathan
He's
Lane
a
is
loud
loud.
and funny guy. People do not give him enough credit. Did you see Dix, which
No.
was that musical that came out I think 2 years ago?
I've seen nothing. I don't.
I heard quite a bit about it, but I never saw it. From the sound of it, probably something I'd never need to see.
Nathan Lane shaved the top of his head for a comb over so that he could comb it over. And also, this is something I have to talk about. Nathan Lane, every time he goes to adjust his hair in this movie, it is the like vigorous pulling of it, like the frantic,
Wetting it down. And
like I think at some point he
always
like licks
greasy.
his hand and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
fixes it. It's so scumbaggy
he
and like
looks perfect to the character.
it's
I think he's a better, like, Zero is a very, I don't know, more grimy old dude, and Nathan Lane is definitely a more likable person, but I love how he plays.
I like Gene
the Irish
Wilder
dog.
better as Leo, and I
agree.
like Nathan Lane better as Max.
I think that's a fair assumption. Let's just edit the movie together, but we'd
Like,
have
honest.
to do AI Gene Wilder singing. Okay, Max Bialystock's lawyer is played by the screenwriter of the film, who was also the book writer of the musical. That's a cool little feature. The old male dancer who says, "Don't be stupid, be a schmarty." Come and join the Nazi party in the middle of Springtime for Hitler is speaking with Mel Brooks' voice. He actually uses that's Mel Brooks' voice. He's just lip syncing it.
Well, and it was
then
kept
in the
from
next
the
next
original.
time that guy speaks, he uses his original voice. So people were very confused as to.
They did that in the 68 version.
Yeah.
I think they reused that same audio clip in the 2005
Yeah,
or like revamped
and
it or
I think it was a new version of it because they I think they did the same thing in the Broadway musical and they probably re-recorded that line for that purpose. Mel Brooks likes to make appearances in his movies. If you have not seen him as the governor in Blazing Saddles, my God, hello boys. Very fun.
at some point in the 2005 version when Leo and Max are kind of hearing the reviews after intermission of Springtime for Hitler, somebody says, "It was shocking, outrageous, insulting, and I loved every minute of it." This was actually
A real review.
a review from the producers
Yeah.
of 1968.
Yeah.
There's a little discrepancy, it seems like, between whether it was 68 or 67.
Yeah,
Because
I think it was probably filmed in 67 and released into theaters.
Okay,
because
because I was going to say, I know that the Oscars that they won were the Oscars for 68.
Yeah,
but
like most of the Wikipedia articles and like official things around this quote
Right.
is 67, but I see a lot of like audience members and people that were alive to see it, unlike us that quoted a 68. So
Which
it could be that it just ran late in 67 and ran into 68.
Another thing that I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit was my Reddit deep dive, as always, on our weekly highlight, and just kind of seeing what audiences thought of the differences between the two, and it seems like a lot of people agree with us where they think Gene Wilder is so much funnier as Leo, and Nathan Lane is much better as Max, but a lot of people are on board with us where they like the musical numbers, and like there's kind of the comfort and like the fun to it, and
the flamboyancy of the whole thing is so fun.
And
it's just so fun to get
the
swept away
2005
with.
version is so much more lighthearted, and like whereas the 67-68 version is more serious, like it kind of is trying to touch on these tones and also be satirical a little bit.
And I think that is like a testament just to like a very poor porting of themes to the Broadway play in general, and then an even further dilution of it into the 2005 movie, because there are so many pacing issues and like.
For sure. Which, I mean, that's something a lot of people say is the 2005 version is by no means perfect. It is a very messy movie, but
damn if those numbers
enjoyable.
aren't earworms, and if there aren't like moments that I will frequently think about. And like everybody has their favorite comfort movie that's a piece of garbage, but you know, you watched it growing up or something like that. And this is mine, and I genuinely will battle people on whether or not this movie is like, a lot of people will say it's unwatchable. I won't even, like, I will defend it on the other side of that and be like, it's far from art. Like, I don't expect it to be that, but I love this movie so much. I have so much fun with this.
Not every movie has to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Or, like, I mean, this is just one for entertainment value. And that alone.
If you, like I said, if you enjoy Mel Brooks's, like, type of comedy, and not to say stuff that, like, Young Frankenstein is an art. I genuinely think that's probably one of, if not the greatest comedy movie ever made. The ability for like those jokes to transcend time and be funny to absolutely anybody is magical. Blazing Saddles a little less so. I think Blazing Saddles is
no, but like
really
for me to be
one.
able to walk into the house with Maddie and you be watching Young Frankenstein, both of us sit on the couch and both of us immediately be enraptured and start laughing.
It's magic.
That's pretty.
It is so good.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you want to talk about like the best Gene Wilder yells, and one thing I will just note is that so many people that I know that don't know of Gene Wilder will walk by and just be like, "Oh, is that Willy Wonka?" And it's like, "Bing, you got it."
Bingo, son.
It's awesome. Shout out Maddie for all of your Willy Wonka recognition. She did that twice. She did it during Young Frankenstein, and she was like, "Is that Willy Wonka again?" Well,
it was when she said again. I was like, "Yes, good job."
Yeah, but it's. I really love Mel Brooks' stuff. Not all of it to the same extent. Like stuff like Spaceballs, I'm okay.
Take it or leave it.
There are like great moments in that, and very iconic like pop moments in that. Like the. Have you seen Spaceballs?
No.
Do you know? Okay.
I mean, like I know what it is, and I've seen clips from it, but I've never.
Do you know the sequence?
Sat down and watched it.
I guess probably one of the biggest sequences from that. I mean, other than Your Schwartz is bigger than mine. Basically, the lightsabers in Spaceballs are all dongs.
Yeah.
There's an alien xenomorph at some point.
Like alien style?
Like a chest burster that bursts out of a guy's chest and then comes out of his chest and then starts doing a tap dancing routine. And it's like, hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
Period.
Hello, my ragtime gal.
I think I've seen that. Is it the little guy and then it's...
Yep, that's it. And that's what that's from. There are some like iconic moments throughout
and then
those, but
they do the same skitter that happens in Alien, right?
Yes, yeah. There a lot of the stuff doesn't age well. I think Blazing Saddles ages beautifully. I think that is like a all around excellent movie. But I think that it can, like I was talking about at the top of this, like with a different generation seeing this and perceiving it as funny for the racism as opposed to funny in favor of like the idiocracy of everything going on in this town. I don't know. It's wild. But the producers, both the 2005 and the 68 versions, I love. The 2005 version is frequently on my list of, hey, I'm throwing this on, and I recommend you guys go out and watch it if you get the opportunity. I have it on my Vudu too. So
do you have a double feature? I mean, other than the two together, which is kind of what we've been promoting, I suppose.
I would like be inclined to say just watch it and Young Frankenstein.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Chow down on some awesome Mel stuff.
I tried to think of like a more modern comedy that could be maybe more accessible.
I don't know.
But because I guess I was trying to do like
I mean, I
was trying to pair the 68 version up with something and then the 2005 version up with something, and obviously Young Frankenstein and the 67 68 version go well
now
together.
I'm just thinking about like early 2000s musical style and the fact that you could do something like Chicago if you were looking for like the continuation of some of the musical fun of things, but it's also a very not fun movie. You could also do Moulin Rouge, Baz Luhrmann's 2001 movie, which you could do Rent. Not great, but Ewan McGregor's got some pretty cool pipes in it. Yeah.
I think I was trying to lean more comedy than anything, and I was coming up dry. So
yeah, I think that like there's some all-time stuff, and once the standard is set,
listen to falsettos. Like I guess that would be one of my recommendations. Yeah. I think that if you can get behind, especially the if you can get behind, especially the
oh my god, you were at Avenue Q.
Well, shoot, falsettos is just a good recommendation for a lot of things, but
I was not dissing your falsettos thing.
No, I know you weren't. No, I'm just all of a sudden started thinking of how well that would go with like Rent and Tick Tick Boom and like this, and there's a lot of themes there that are widely held throughout Broadway, especially when plays are dealing with LGBTQ members, and I love falsettos, and I think that this would actually, if there was a movie for it. Which unfortunately there's not. This would be a very good double feature.
Would right the wrongs that this movie would.
Yes, like literally, it's 100%. It's about a little Jewish family, and this dad discovers he's gay, and it's wild, and I love it.
I love storytelling like that, but I also love the producer, so shoot me.
Yeah, I'm landing on falsettos as my double feature, even though it's not a movie.
Now I can't stop thinking about Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande talking to that lady from Avenue Q. I keep having that video come up on my feed, and I'm like, this was 2 months ago.
The holding space?
No, the when they're talking to the lady that was in Avenue Q, and they're like, "You were in Avenue Q on Broadway?" Oh. And then they find out who she was, and they're like, "Shut up!" Yeah. I keep seeing it.
Every press video of Wicked is never going to die until 2026. We'll be and just wait until later this year when people are like, remember this moment from last year, and it's the holding space thing, or the girl with the sunglasses or whatever.
Yeah, I am not and do not consider myself to be a theater person by any stretch of the imagination. I have an awareness of it at best, and like
I am a theater person. I can't say I'm super caught up on modern Broadway,
but the fact that like how massive of a thing Wicked has been is reaching somebody like me, just in my general like social media sphere. I'm like, okay, this is
Wicked.
I guess this is a big deal or something.
Well, we all need to hold space.
I'm not holding space for shit, woman.
Well, we have to hold space for Defying Gravity.
I'm sorry. I held a lot of space. I've held a lot of space in a lot of vehicles for Defying Gravity. All right. That's going to do it for the producers.
You're cutting me off before I start singing.
No, I mean, we could let this run for another 3 minutes and...
We could just sing for good.
Let's see. We do have
to... You take Galinda,
we do have to talk about
some
stuff. For starters, Sing Sing is on streaming now.
Beautiful, gorgeous.
We're watching that this weekend. Nickel Boys is coming to streaming tomorrow. We will probably also be seeing Companion. Dog Cop is also in theaters.
Dog Man.
Is it Dog Man? I've really thought it's Dog Cop.
I don't know.
Hold on.
Is it...
Let's confirm this. Let's not miss.
I don't know, but I'm
pretty sure it's Dog Cop.
I am going to see Companion tonight.
Okay. I think I'm going to see it tomorrow.
Oh, it's Dog Man. I was right. Win.
Damn. It's from the creators of Captain Underpants.
Another Emmy dub.
Yeah. I will also be going to see Parasite reissued next weekend, which is going to be awesome. There's also a Led Zeppelin documentary coming out next weekend. The first official Led Zeppelin documentary.
And it's like them, like
crossing my fingers that will be just absolutely incredible.
Don't flop. Please don't be dirty.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to see. I'll definitely get back on Sunday with Nickel Boys and Sing Sing.
Which we've been dying to see.
We'll probably talk about Companion. Yeah, I may watch Sing Sing tonight. I don't know. I haven't decided. But I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week and evening. Sorry this post is a little bit late.
It's a little bit chaotic too. We just got
figuring out our schedule.
Fun about the producers. We both love this movie a lot, and it's so funny.
I've
like
been
you can't
on a dive for this, so I'm glad that I have something that like I can enthusiastically and educatedly talk about, because everything that I go through, I'm usually just like looking up notes.
Oh, this one was just enthusiasm for me.
This one is just pure like I know this thing front to back.
I will laugh,
and we will definitely have more of those coming up. And we've got plenty of other things that we're learning to love every day. Like I keep finding things that I'm like, all right, and I rewatched it 4 times this week.
Thinking about a Damien Chazelle highlight soon.
I think it's about time.
I mean, he's only got 3 movies. I think if we did like just an episode on him.
So the question is, do we put all 3 movies up for vote?
No, I think we do a Damien Chazelle highlight and talk about all 3 movies.
Just a Damien Chazelle general highlight. Yes, we can absolutely do that. I know that Rachel wants to do the Babylon podcast eventually.
The watch along.
Both the watch along, and I think we'll probably do a highlight and a watch along on it, we'll figure that out. But,
perfect. Either way,
Babylon.
I'm kind of itching to talk about my boy.
Yeah, so we'll definitely do some Chazelleism in the coming weeks. But you guys, in the meantime, have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and
Peace
we will
and blessings.
See you at the end of it on Monday morning with our weekend roundup.
See you at the movies, perhaps.
Maybe.
You know I'll be there.
I'm Roger Ebert.
And I'm Bialystock and Blue.
And we'll see you at the movies.
Is that anything like this?
This.